Hello and welcome to Trying Times. My name is Carmen, and if you're new here, then I just want to say that I appreciate you and your time. So thank you for tuning in today, and thank you for joining me for this episode. This one is going to be about something I don't think I've ever really talked about on this show, but I wanted to talk about makeup and trends and modifications and all of that good stuff. I just want to preface this with the fact that I have such a sore throat right now, and I know that recording makes me happier, but at the same time, it sucks because I have a sore throat. So if my voice sounds a little faint at times, or if it sounds a little, I don't know, like I'm going through puberty, that's what it is. That's what all of that is for. So yeah, moving along. I just want to say also, on the subject matter of makeup and trends and modifications, that there is zero negativity here or disrespect towards anyone who may have any interest or involvement in any sort of bodily or facial modifications, because at the end of the day, I'm sharing my own opinion on it and in regards to my own body and my own being, and not at all in any way towards anybody else. So if someone does something or thinks something different than me, I think that's great and that's totally okay. It's important that you do what makes you feel best and helps you feel more like you. So I just wanted to say that before I got into the episode, because I think it's important to note that, and everyone's different, and it's not like everyone's just going to magically have the same thoughts or opinions on everything, and that is what kind of makes the world go around in a positive way and in other ways. So yeah, there's that. So the first thing I really wanted to focus on in this episode is makeup trends. I think for me, I started wearing makeup around the time I was maybe like 14 years old. And at the time, I was very much in my scene girl phase. I was very much into like the bold eyeshadow with like every color of the rainbow, and then doing a huge winged liner on top of that. So before I got into that level of makeup, I started off by playing around with minimal things like colored eyeliner and putting that on like my lash line, and then some fun lipstick colors here and there. And it was kind of what got me to open up the doors a little bit more into experimenting with eyeshadow, kind of like I just said. And was that necessarily a look? I can't really say yes or no to that, but I can definitely say that it did help me feel more like myself, or that I did feel more like myself with those things. So yes, in that way, I would consider it a look, but in other ways, maybe not. Looking back on it now and kind of where I've grown and gone in terms of makeup, I would not say it was necessarily a look. I felt like things were more tied together in terms of my hair and wardrobe, and then also adding my makeup into that made me feel a lot more like myself. So I found it really interesting at a young age that makeup could really be like that finishing touch on self-expression or creativity and how you express yourself and just, bring yourself into the world. I thought that was really interesting from a young age. So when I got comfortable with that, I started doing some really intense and funky eyeshadow looks, and eventually got really comfortable and confident with that. And at the time, that whole like scene trend was definitely one of the more popular ongoing trends, and something that a lot of other people were doing too. So in a way, it felt really cool that I was part of this collective that also dressed the same and did similar makeup or played with similar makeup trends. And I think at the end of the day, one thing that we all wish for as humans, and one thing that we all seek, is a form of acceptance and validation. And for a lot of people, this could be through makeup. I know for myself, saying that from the ages of like 13 to 16, it was definitely something that I felt, and it was nice. It just felt good. It felt like I was part of something. And like I said, that was one of the trends that I not only experienced living through, but did to some degree participate in as well. And there were probably a dozen other trends at the time, but that one was definitely the one that felt the most me, and I went for it. I played with all of the colors, tried doing all the things with my hair, had funky wardrobe, and I loved it, honestly. But fast forward to now, trends are very much different from what they once were. So I know like that whole scene trend is still out there, but it's not the same as it once was, I don't think, at least. I mean, maybe it is, but the way that I was living through it when I was in high school versus now, it's like totally different. So I think there were definitely not as many steps involved in my makeup back then as there are now. And don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. I love learning about new products and processes and how to make that most suitable for myself. So I think looking back at things then, when I would do my makeup way back, it was just strictly like eyeshadow primer, eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, and then like lipstick or gloss of some sort. Then when I was in university and I first got into doing more full face makeup, I was doing like a bit of BB cream or tinted moisturizer and then setting powder and my eyeliner, mascara, brows, and lipstick. Now in my head, it's like this full sort of operation type of a process because there's primer, then there's concealer, foundation, a different highlighting concealer, and then there's bronzer, setting powder, eyeliner, because I will never let go of that. Eyebrow products, mascara, highlighter, setting spray, and then lip gloss. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing products in there like blush and other things. But yeah, from that in itself, you can tell how this process has gotten longer, but has also gotten better in many ways. And even though there's been a lot of changes and adapting and learning, I can say that doing my makeup has almost always felt therapeutic for me. So that's what makes me enjoy makeup as a whole, if I'm being honest. The one thing I find really interesting, though, is how makeup can alter your facial features and complement them in so many ways, too. Like the aspect of contouring isn't something that existed entirely, or so I don't think, like 10 years ago. So it's interesting to see how that changes some things and just how it kind of enhances features. And now, I mean, there's products that are meant to enhance features even further, like plumping lip glosses, which I won't lie, I find those to be so much fun and I love using them. But going off of that, there's always been a lot of trends in terms of body and face, always. It's something that's just a constant, and the way that's become more influential in the last 10 to 15 years is really interesting because it's been, I think, prominent always, but it's become more and more prominent now. So one example that I can touch on that I think everybody has lived through and has seen at this point is the whole trend of lip injections. And I think it's cool. And I think it looks amazing on so many people, but it's just not for me. This is something that started a bit slow, but then has grown to become a very regular thing that a lot of people prefer to have done now. And it's become much more normalized. And I don't think I have like a percentage by any means of how many people get this done, but I do think it's interesting that the rate in which I see people now who may have minor modifications like that is much, much higher. And again, I think that's fine. Another thing going along with the concept of aging is fine lines. This is a huge driver, I would imagine, in the world of aesthetic procedures or any cosmetology related surgeries. It's never necessarily marketed or shown as trending to have fine lines, which is kind of ridiculous because we all do. And at the end of the day, everyone ages. It's just the way that we live and continue to grow, and it's part of life. So the fact that that isn't necessarily advertised functions as a huge sore spot for many people, and that's completely understandable. Like for me now, there are some days where I feel down, and then on top of that, I'll see like the smallest wrinkle, and I'll just be like, oh wow, great, like look at this now. Boom, my mood will just get worse. And I don't even like sharing that, but it's true. I think everybody feels that at some point or another. And it's still not enough for me, in all honesty, to want to book an appointment to do something about that, to change it altogether. I like that it's there because even if it's not deemed as youthful or even as beautiful, it's something that just showcases the truth, which is the fact that I'm getting older, I'm experiencing things in life, and some of those things could be so exciting and positive that I'm glowing. Other things might be so negative where I'm feeling strained and just tired, but through all of that, your face and your body and whatever else is just being molded through experiences. And at the end of the day, it's a sign that you're living and you're experiencing things, and that is totally normal. I think there's so much about that could be trending, but it's never been put into a spotlight necessarily. So to do that now might just not feel as effective for a lot of people. And that's fine, because if we were all told we were beautiful all the time, a lot of these industries would not be making the money that they're making. And I think that's sadly just part of life, which is insane, but it's true. And at the end of the day, everyone needs to do what makes them feel 100% good and confident and happy in their skin. If they don't, then that's also impacting their lives in a negative way. So considering all of that, I don't have any negative outlook on that world of procedures because, again, I think it all comes from people needing to and wanting to feel good within themselves. And that's part of life. As long as that doesn't involve harming someone else or poses as a threat towards someone else, then I think that's totally okay. I know that's more so just in relation to the trending aspect of surgical procedures, but there's also a whole other side to the world of body modifications where people are able to just undergo procedures that may alter their features in a way that looks different to regular human features. And that wasn't totally a side I was planning to get into in this episode, but I find that side of things really interesting too, because on one hand, we have people who see certain trends and may want to participate in those trends to feel more accepted or validated within themselves and maybe even a community. But then there's also a whole other community that wants to feel the total opposite way and feel accepted within a different subculture for having unique features that might not be something that we see every single day. And either way, whichever side you may be on, if you're on one of those two sides or maybe you're not, I think either way that's really fascinating because similar to makeup, it helps people feel more accepting towards themselves and again, possibly a part of something. And it's not an unknown fact that our appearances can affect our thoughts and our feelings towards ourselves in so many ways. So I thought this kind of subject was important to discuss because along with so much of whatever happens in our lives or whatever experiences we may go through, our appearance can also potentially inflict trying times too, the same way that a job or moving or even meeting a new friend can. Everything we experience in life generally is just so impactful, and I think this sort of a subject is a great example of that because it's always able to teach us some sort of a lesson. I think a good example of this could be me even cringing at the beginning of this episode when I reflect on how I did my makeup in high school versus how I did it in university versus how I might do it now. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I learned from each of those phases and I still managed to grow. And I think that's the most important thing. Could it have been considered a trying time? Of course, but at the end of the day, I learned from it and I grew, and I think that's the most important. And I think the main lesson really in this episode is that things are forever going to change. Trends are always going to be changing. New things will always be on the come up in some way or another. So if something that is considered attractive right now might not be in 2 to 5 years, or I don't know, like 10 years, but you feel comfortable in it and like it, then that's all that matters. It shouldn't really have to change if you don't want it to. That's totally okay too. At the end of the day, a trend is just a trend. If you want to hold on to it, then you hold on to it. Who cares? If you feel like it brings you joy, then that's all that matters. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I really don't have much else to add. So I'm going to say that's it for me. I want to first of all thank you for joining me today for this episode. And again, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you and your time. So yeah, if there's anything that you think about what we talked about today or anything that you want to add or even ask, please feel free to do so. There's a couple of different options of how we can chat. So one would be to DM me on Instagram at the Trying Times Podcast. And the second option would be to send me a voicemail. You can record one and share it with me by clicking the link in the episode description. And then to visit the Instagram page, you can also click on the link in the episode description. That's all down there. So yeah, if there's anything you want to chat about, feel free to reach out and I hope to hear from you soon, okay? We'll chat again soon. Bye.